Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Awakened Souls podcast. I'm your host, Devin Brown, a Kundalini activator, spiritual guide, mentor, and hopefully just a great source of entertainment for you. Let's get ready to dive in. Hello, everyone, and happy Monday once again. So last week we talked about what are the spiritual gifts, and we broke it down into different spiritual gifts that we have access to, and then kind of shared a little bit of my personal story that I have some in the book. And this week we're going to segue off of that and talk about how to access our spiritual gifts. That being said, if you have a tug and you also know that you have supernatural giftings, but you want to hone those, or you want to activate those spiritual giftings, and you have an active daily practice, a daily spiritual practice where you are already doing the work, healing and connecting to yourself, and you just want to begin to have those giftings, there is a link in my shop. I have a hypnosis, Reiki, energetic healing activation specifically for activating your spiritual gifts. So that being said, what creates the foundation in order to access our spiritual gifts? Well, for one, a big part of that is actually being true to yourself, letting go of conditioned patterns, letting go of ideas that the truth that everyone has spoken to you has to be your truth, because we don't have to have our truth be the same as everyone else's, even if it is a good thing. Let's look at it this way. A lot of organized religions, a lot of places like churches and things like that, they speak and they teach and they pour into people in a beautiful way. But that doesn't mean that mindset, that those beliefs are meant for everyone. Like, let's think of it as a job that might be helping certain people. That job is not meant for every single person to do that job. Like, my significant other works with adults with special needs. Like, he does like a life skills job coach with type situation. He takes them to work and teaches them how to do a job and works with adults who have severe disabilities. And he is able to do that. I could never do that. I am not gifted in that way. I'm not patient enough in that way. I am just not meant to do that. But that is his magic. That is his gifting. That is his spiritual being and spiritual essence. I, for myself, have different giftings. You, for yourself, have different giftings. So how do we access these things? One is to be true to ourselves. Are you living a life that you can look back or even look at currently and say, I am really happy with the choices that I'm making. I'm really happy with where I am right now. I am really thrilled to be living life right now. And I know that sounds very surface and very materialistic, but the truth of the matter is, if you cannot say yes to that, then it would be almost like me taking flowers and plants and putting them in rocks without soil and expecting them to grow. It's not going to happen. It's not meant to happen. So we need to be able and need to allow ourselves permission to create a life that brings us to a place of peace, brings us to a place of tranquility, brings us to a place of joy. And those giftings are going to come automatically. When we are surrounded by things that put us in survival mode, we are not at a place that we are going to be able to access those spiritual giftings in the way that we want to access them. When we are constantly on the lookout for how to help other people, get everyone else's needs met, do this, do that, do this, do that for everyone else, we're not going to be able to manifest or move anything else to anyone else, through anyone else, or anywhere that we're supposed to go. Like, we have to give ourselves permission to create a life that brings us to a place of peace, to create a life that brings us to a place of tranquility. The second part of this is, once we know that we have certain spiritual giftings, you have to practice. It is like building a muscle. If you don't practice, if you don't access, if you don't pour into yourself and train, so to speak, I mean, how do you expect to do well? How do you expect to move forward? How do you expect to create what it is that you're wanting to create? Like, it's just not going to happen. Like, it's not how it's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, we need to allow ourselves permission and allow ourselves freedom to just be. And it's a beautiful thing when we do allow ourselves permission to move forward, and we allow ourselves permission to access gifts and to practice gifts and to enjoy gifts. Like, one of my favorite things is when my son is doing spiritual gifts. Like, he has a bracelet now that he wears. It's a obsidian bracelet. He likes to wear it when he goes to sleep. He said it makes him feel safe and it makes him feel grounded. But one of the things I love watching is before he puts that bracelet on, he puts it in his hands and he focuses his magic and his energy and he charges it up until he sees it glowing, and then he puts it on his wrist. Like, he has access to those spiritual giftings, but those giftings are coming into place because he is at a home that allows homeostasis, that allows freedom to grow, freedom to be, freedom to move, freedom to understand. And if you are not at a place in your home and you're not at a place to get out and to create a life that you want, I want you to be truly honest with yourself and truly look and see, is it really that you can't? Or is it that you aren't willing to let go of and start fresh and to sacrifice to get there? Like, I mean, if we're being honest, if we're being truthful, like, one of the things that, and I might regret telling you guys this example, but I'm going to be truthful. I was in a marriage for almost 13 years, and we had just bought a new house together the year before. Like, I think literally maybe, like right at a year or maybe even less than a year. It was my dream home, every single thing. I knew that it still wasn't the house. It wasn't the place for me to be in order to grow, in order to be true to myself, in order to manifest. Like, and part of that is the codependence. I'm not going to get into that. That's going to go into a whole different episode, so we're not going to go there. But I noticed and I saw that, okay, in order for me to create the life that I really want, in order for me to create a life where I feel safe and surrounded by people who are going to support me for being me and for pursuing this part of myself that I want to pursue, I am going to have to sacrifice. Like, we just bought this house over a year ago. I can't afford the payments. I'm not going to make him take out another second mortgage and pay me off for something that we just purchased. And we did find a compromise. Like, we went back and forth, like, but I walked away and went and rented a teeny tiny little place that, like, my mortgage now that I have thankfully gotten to a place where I was able to buy is less than the rent I was paying for this teeny tiny little house. Like, but I left and I walked away with way less than I could have according to, like, the laws in the court and so forth. But I left because my peace was more important than the physical items. My peace was more important than the tangible self. And it's one of those things that, like, you can really look at your life and see, is there a way for you to create homeostasis better than you have it now? And sometimes the answer is going to be no. Sometimes the answer is no. It's just a matter of setting boundaries and needing boundaries and not pouring into other people as much and pouring into yourself just as much. So part of accessing our spiritual gifts and activating those spiritual gifts are creating a fertilized soul where those gifts are going to be welcome. So that's step one. Step two is going to be to practice those gifts and explore those gifts and move those gifts. And don't assume that just because a gift is working one certain way, that it's not going to change, that it's not going to grow, that it's not going to manifest, that it's not going to develop. I think of it almost like an embryo when somebody first has the news that they're pregnant. That baby does not look like a baby. Looks like a little tadpole. And it grows and it develops into this amazing, beautiful thing that has a life of its own. That's kind of very similar to what our spiritual giftings do. They grow, they move, they manifest, they change, they morph into something beautiful. But it takes practice. It takes a safe space. It takes admitting that we have certain giftings. Then it takes practicing with those giftings. And then it also takes just surrender in a way, surrendering to the idea that you have all the answers, surrendering to the idea that it has to look a certain way, surrendering to the idea that it's going to manifest a certain way. So one of the things that I do is Akashic record readings, and I take people up to the Akashic records, and we do past life healings. We do like rewriting of contracts. We do like soul tie cutting for things that are no longer serving. We do past life healing. We do all of this stuff. There are some people who are not yet of a vibration when I take them up to see what I see in the Akashic records. And then there are some that I take up and we both are having the same vision and seeing the same things, just on a different interpretation and a different level. So just because something is not working out the way you expect it to doesn't mean it's not working. When I do Reiki or energy on someone in person, sometimes some people move to the energy. They twist, they, like maybe cry. They show me tangible physical proof that they are feeling what I am doing. But then there's other people that I can't even tell if they're awake. Like literally, I swear they're snoring. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that they aren't receiving exactly what it is that they are meant to receive when they are meant to receive it. So just the same thing with you. Just because a spiritual gifting is looking a certain way does not mean that it is not becoming and it is not moving forward into the way that you want it to be or into the way that you would expect it to be. I hope that's making sense for you guys. I feel like I'm kind of going in circles a little bit. But that being said, if you are wanting to access your spiritual giftings, if you are wanting to kind of dive deeper and to know yourself on an intimate level, and you really do feel prepared for that, let's do it. Let's dive in. If you go to my Patreon site, there's going to be a link here. It's Activation 7. It says activating our spiritual gifts. It's $28. This is a meditation you can do over and over and over again, but the activation is for the Claire giftings that I talked about last week. It's for light language activation. It's for energetic healing. It's for astral projection, and it's for psychic abilities. If you have the soil, so to speak, and you're ready for this and you are prepared, this activation will raise your vibration, but it's also going to move you forward into walking every day into these spiritual giftings and into what it is. This is a MP3 file. You can listen to it on your phone. You can listen to it on the computer, however you need to. You can listen to it with headphones. It's something that you want to do when you are alone and quiet. But that's one place I would encourage you to start. Go and check that out. Like I said, it's Activation 7. You can find it in the shop. And I just know that you guys are on, the collective in general, the spiritual world in general is waking up. We are activating our spiritual giftings. We are seeing our kids raised with spiritual giftings. And that being said, my guides are having me write a new book. I'm working on it. It's how to raise children with supernatural giftings and how to raise children with spiritual giftings, because I'm doing it. I'm seeing it. And we have a lot of kids, a lot of starseeds that are here, and parents don't know what to do. And they're just shutting them down or tearing them down or doing what happened to me, where they're being villainized for certain gifts. And we're cutting a portion of ourselves off to try and fit in. And we don't want to do that with our children. We want to give them what we did not have. We want to give them what they need. We want to give them the soil that they need to let themselves find themselves and grow into themselves and be themselves. That being said, come join my Quantum Circle if you're interested in connecting more. Again, the same link, my link tree in the bio. Go check it out. You'll follow the My Shops and My Offerings link in order to access that spiritual gifting activation. But I'm also taking podcast sponsors, $3 a month, and we can keep this podcast ad-free. I hope you guys have a happy Monday. Next week, we are going to be talking about how we let go of habits and fear that are no longer serving us or our highest selves when they are so deeply ingrained into us. It's kind of a hefty episode. It's a little bit of a deeper dive, but it's important, especially as we grow and especially as we move forward. And I cannot wait to talk to you next week.